Having been on the lookout to interview a truly engaging personality, I was rewarded with much more than I could ask for in the form of the talent powerhouse Ratna Pathak Shah. Known for her realistic, raw, and often feisty portrayals that break boundaries, Ratnaji always struck me as an unpredictable actor that brings out emotions in the most visceral way possible most of her peers can only dream of doing. An unassuming intellectual, Ratnaji is bold, refreshingly honest, and therefore an interviewer's delight. That said, sit back, grab a drink, and enjoy this interview. Leave your comments and share if you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you. So the year was 1995, and a 10-year-old me walked up to two ladies, Ratna Pathak and Deena Pathak, somewhere in Kulaba. You all had just finished checking out an exhibition that I had also been to. And I mustered up all the courage I had to walk up to you because you were the first celebrity I'd ever interacted with. I say celebrity, I know you may not like that word too much, but for me, you were one and you are one. And so I walked up to you, mustered up all the courage I could, and asked you, as lame as it sounds, I said, "Excuse me, what time is it?"
Where was
Where? This was
this?
somewhere in South Bombay. This was in Colaba.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if it was that Air India building, if it had some exhibition going on, but
Maybe.
it was too long ago in any case. But from that to now, excuse me, what time is it?
Well, 8 o'clock at my end. What time is it at your end?
It is 7:33 in the morning, and you've turned up
Oh
as
boy.
expected, bang on time. So thank you for that. How are things coming along?
Uh, could be better for sure.
Sure.
But given the situation all around, I think we've got off cheaply. We've all been well, touch wood. So, and fairly well occupied also.
If we can make a quick pit stop about your sons and your daughter, because I don't think that we know as much about them. Would you like to share a bit about? I mean, I know about what Imad does, and
Mhm.
I'm not too aware of what Vivan does. So if you would like to share a bit about what they do and what their interests are.
Yep. Hiba is an actress and a dancer and a great cat lover. She seems to be
Hmm.
an animal lover actually. She
Right.
seems to be doing a lot of work around her area where she lives. Imad, as you said, uh, you know a little bit about, but he's a musician and an actor.
That's nice.
So being a musician is has been useful in the lockdown because he can work on his own and he
Sure.
has a recording setup at home, so he does a fair amount of work there.
That's awesome.
And he's also been getting some acting work, so he's been enjoying that.
Nice.
And Vivan, the youngest one, still lives with us, and
Okay.
he is an actor and a writer
Oh
and
wow. Nice.
has published a book and has another one coming up.
There
So
you go.
he also has found a fair amount to occupy himself with.
Nice, nice. You mentioned Hiba, and I know that she had acted in the play Ismat Apa Ke Naam with you
That's right.
and
That's right.
Nasiruddin Shah ji. So, um, how is that? How is that experience working? I mean, it's I think a perfect segue to get into theater. Ismat
Yes.
Chughai's
Yes.
works are obviously something that you're very passionate about. So,
Yes.
she has influenced you a great deal, I would imagine. So, how has that been working with Nasiruddin Shah ji and Hiba on that place, Matapa Ke Naam? And how's that transformed you as an actor? Because if you've been doing a role for so long, I would imagine you identify and discover different layers about it each time. At the
Yes.
same, and I just finished my question. I know I'm getting really long-winded, but at the same time, trying to retain the freshness about it.
Yes, but that's what theatre is all about. That it is a long-term commitment. At least the kind of theatre we do. We tend to run a play as long as we can, as long
Sure.
as we are finding things to discover in it and grow as actors. But let me start by telling you about how Ismatapa came to be. We started our theatre group Motley
Sure.
in 1979. Actually, Nasir and Benjamin Gilani, they were the first two. They sort of decided one evening in a cafe while drinking a cup of coffee that, well, we should start a theatre group. And what do we want to do first? We want to do Waiting for Godot. So it
Right.
was quite an opening. Uh, we didn't do too many shows at that time,
Okay.
but we stayed with Godot for a long time. We used to read it to ourselves, used to rehearse amongst ourselves, and slowly started putting a production together that has now sustained for a very long time.
Mhm.
And that's when we decided that we would like to run plays for as long as we can.
Yeah.
One, we don't run it every day. That's not how theatre operates in India, in
Oh,
Bombay. There are no daily shows.
correct.
You of the kind of theatre we do. We
Mhm.
perform in smaller spaces. We keep our costs low, so
Mhm.
we don't tend to do the big productions, the musicals or the.
I'm sorry to
Uh,
interrupt, but are these self-produced or do you have produced?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Wow.
entirely. So we started off by putting in our own money, and now we make enough to run, put up new shows and new productions. But we try and keep costs really low.
Mhm.
Partly because it's difficult to run a theatre in Bombay, uh, which is very elaborate.
Mhm.
You don't have place to store the equipment, the sets. You don't get dates regularly, so you have months in between when you don't perform.
Right,
All
right,
that
right.
makes it extremely difficult to have a tech-heavy production. So
Sure,
what we
sure.
do is, and it is our personal choice and our personal quest, as it were, because
Right.
the interest is in trying to figure out what makes good acting.
Yeah.
And we choose plays that we like, that
Mhm.
we can afford to do in the number of people that we have. We
Sure,
include other people whenever possible, but it is a small group as far as possible. We
sure,
like
sure.
the more intimate spaces like Prithvi or like the NCPA experimental
Right, right,
theatre. Though
right,
we have performed in large spaces as well, but the intimacy that comes in a smaller space is very, very special.
right, right.
And also, we get to choose the kind of writers we want because we are not looking out for the commercial uh, aspects of a play. We
Mhm.
can afford to do shows when we can.
Right, right.
And we don't expect to make a great deal of money. Most of us earn our livings outside of the theatre.
Sure.
So that gives us great freedom. So
Mhm.
we've been able to choose every play that we wanted to do. We've done Shakespeare, we've done George Bernard Shaw, we've done uh, Albert Camus, we've done Ionesco, we've done Albi, I mean, all
Wow.
kinds of
Mhm.
plays, everything that interested us. And
Sure,
since they were small company, it's a small company and we perform in small spaces and we don't make huge amounts of money or anything, but the pleasure is absolutely
sure.
incalculable.
Right,
And
right.
then around the end of the 90s, we began to feel that we should try and look for plays in our own language. And then Nasir, on one of his travels, found a copy of Ismat Chughtai's plays, stories in a
Sure.
bookshop in
Mhm.
English. And he was absolutely enthralled. And then he came back and we all read it together
So,
in
sorry,
through the world.
but were you not aware of Ismat Chugtai prior to
Of
that?
course, of course, we were. And there were a lot of women writing along with Ismat. I mean, she was certainly not the only one.
Yeah,
There were
yeah.
many, but I don't think any of them have the kind of zing and the sharpness that Ismat has. And the really utterly modern view
Yeah.
and the compassion and the lack of judgment that she sort of extends to all her characters.
Wow.
She's sitting on no judgment on anyone. She's just
Mhm.
telling you their stories with as much feeling and clarity as possible.
Sure. Now, just coming back to your question, or my question rather, about performing a character over time and how one sort of retains freshness in it, and how has it been for you doing Mughal Bacha? I believe is the story that
It's the
you.
story that I started with,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. I mean, I think I finally found my stride as an actress once I started working on Mughal Bacha.
Hmm.
For one, it's not my own language. Well, I know Urdu, but I mean, hardly speak. I had hardly spoken it, or I
Hmm.
understand it, not very well, not then, anyways. Um, so it was a new language, it was a new form, and uh, but for the first time in my life, I felt no sense of nervousness. I usually found myself rather nervous as an actor about how I would tackle it. Not once we had gone past the rehearsal phase, but at the beginning of it, I often found myself, how would I do this? I mean, how do I get around to uh, performing this character the way this play requires? And then suddenly with Mughal Bacha, it became organic.
Mm-hmm.
And it became something that I could do with pleasure.
Sure.
I look forward to the shows of Ismat Afaq now, and I discover something new every single time, um, and it's absolutely amazing how smoothly people have accepted it, not just the form but also the language,
Right.
and it really has proved me completely wrong. And I'm so happy to say that our audience is almost entirely under 35, 40. They're really young people that come to see and hear these stories. Nasir often talks about never fixing your performance and keeping things open. Now, that's very different from spontaneity.
Mm-hmm.
Spontaneity is another kettle of fish altogether.
Mm-hmm.
There is no spontaneity, I believe, that is possible without extreme rehearsal.
Okay.
You can only be spontaneous when you are in a state of preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that rehearsal need not be rehearsals with others, as in a film script, you don't get time to rehearse with others,
Yeah.
but it can mean rehearsal with yourself and your own preparation. But spontaneity is not possible without that preparation.
Sure.
Anyone who says that I'm a spontaneous actor and I don't like rehearsing, I find that a bit suspicious actually. Either they're lying or they are hoping to wing it,
Yeah.
or they are just bad actors and don't even know the difference.
Yeah.
So I don't think spontaneity is something that can be used as an excuse for lack of work.
I,
So,
I, I'm sorry to again cut in. I had done an interview with Rajesh Telang, and he had talked about working with these Hollywood actors and actresses in the Marigold Hotel movie. And he talked about the same thing. He talked about the extreme amount of preparation that they came to the set with. And then they were able to do something with it on the set. They were able to create new things that typically we don't get to see that in our cinema, he said. We don't get to
yes,
witness that level of
yes, yes,
preparation.
yes.
How do you come
We are
so
such a
prepared? And
lazy bunch of people. We are such a lazy bunch of people. There's
yeah,
no other excuse.
yeah,
There's no other excuse, which is why we give the same performance over and over again. I
yeah.
mean, look at our actors. Look at all of them.
I mean,
What can one talk about?
60s to the 80s, I mean, again, I've not been to school of acting, but I'm quite intrigued by it. Is I've noticed that most actors or actresses acted in a similar fashion. They spouted their dialogues exactly the same way. There was nothing very unique about anyone in particular. So,
Yes,
and I think that we've still retained that,
yes,
um,
yes.
that
I'm
habit.
afraid we still haven't lost that habit. we, I think we need one generation of actors to sort of clear out of the way.
Sure, sure,
And
sure.
then the new ones that are coming are not quite so
Hmm.
silly about it. They seem to be taking their work much more intelligently
Sure.
and seem to be willing to prepare more,
Hmm.
seem to be willing to think more.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I've often been on sets where being called for a shot is something that irritates everyone. Here we are having a great chat. We are playing cards. We are having a great joke. We are laughing. And you actually want us to come and do a shot? Oh, come on. We're coming. We're coming. You, as
It's
if doing work is
ridiculous.
the last thing
They
on a
also talk
set.
about partying on the set, which I've always found so amazing that they say that it was a shoot in Goa and we just had a ball. We went to Europe and it was a ball, it was a party. And I'm like, when did you guys act? Or when did you guys prepare? When did you guys I'm also curious
Well,
about the
if
technicians. Like how well prepared are the technicians? We don't talk about the quality of technical prowess that we bring to the table as well, right?
yes, yes, that's our problem. For example, our dancers are are skillful. They're gifted, but look at the choreography that they're
Hmm.
expected to do. We've never pushed for real skill in choreography because we don't have lead actors who are good dancers and are willing to rehearse enough. I mean,
Hmm.
they get by with their three little jhatkas and matkas, and it's like painting by numbers. You just do it and get it over with.
Sure.
There's no need for perfection. There seems to be no need to challenge yourself. As I say, that seems to be changing.
Yeah.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but this is one of our major problems. Our script writers have the same issue. Not willing to put in the
Yeah.
effort, not willing to do the research, not willing to write the number of drafts required for a good script.
Yeah, yeah,
Our directors come on the set and then decide, where should we start? Where should we put the camera? Our sets are chock-a-block full of people,
yeah.
largely because a lot of them are untrained. So there's two people doing a job that can be done by one, or sometimes three or four.
That's
So,
interesting. Yeah.
yes, we
I
are underskilled.
I
We are
used to think
highly
they've
underskilled.
transformed a lot over the years. I used to
Yes, they
find,
have.
I used to think that maybe they have come of age, and things are done in a more sophisticated manner. I think the sophistication is limited more to the screen or the effects, maybe, but behind the scenes, I don't have access, so I don't know. You would know better.
I would use the word uh, instead of sophistication. Sophistication is a very superficial kind of a concept.
Mhm.
What really is required is a change in mindset
Okay.
and a desire to push for perfection. We were just talking about it the other day when we were at a shoot. India has never ever contributed in the technical development of cinema. We have made no new lenses.
Yeah.
We have made no new discoveries with how to light a scene. We use what we see around us. And
Yeah.
there are some people who use it extremely well.
Hmm.
But the bottom line is that we just don't innovate enough. We're happy to borrow. We're happy to borrow ideas. I mean, for years and years and years, films borrowed ideas from Western movies or from movies all over the world or from the South.
Yeah.
Hindi films have constantly copied. The music is now even, I mean, everyone knows about how much
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
copying of
Absolutely.
music has been going on. But I see that changing, no doubt about it. I see that changing. And
Mhm.
in the web space, definitely, that change is much more noticeable.
Okay.
uh, the level of preparedness and the level of efficiency on a set is much higher today than it ever was, no
Sure.
doubt.
Hmm.
But we still have a long way to go before we genuinely adopt this medium for ourselves and
Yeah.
make it our own, speak in our own way.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Um, just going back to theater again, I'm again curious that I think I may have heard Nasiruddin Shahji or you mention in some interview about how Shakespeare is not adapted well around the world, even by the English themselves. What is it about Shakespeare that is a beast so hard to contain or manage?
I don't know what the problem is with England because I mean it's their language. But in India, definitely English is one of the major problems. Actors who speak English with understanding,
Hmm.
um, actors who speak with understanding, period. We have a bit of a paucity of that. We tend to declaim. We seem to like the declamatory style. And therefore, it just becomes a babble of sounds after a
Hmm.
while. They're complicated lines, they're not easy to speak, Shakespeare's lines. And yet, when they're spoken well, they make sense so beautifully. And they transport you with the cleverness and the beauty of the language.
Sure.
So, yes, Shakespeare is a bugbear for sure. Everyone wants to do him. There are some adaptations, which means uh, adaptations done from Shakespeare into Indian language and into Indian context.
Right.
A production done recently, not so recently, actually, a few years ago, by Atul Kumar called, it was a production of Twelfth Night. What's it called? I've forgotten. It'll come to
That's
me.
fine. Hmm.
But so this production, I thought was an absolutely wonderful adaptation. It wasn't sticking to the play exactly as written, but it had absolutely taken the play for itself, for its own, was able to use his language in an interesting way while speaking in Hindi. The adapters really found a way to bridge the gap
Yeah.
beautifully. So, but those are very rare.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of the Shakespearean productions are extremely pedantic and boring. I don't like watching them. I don't like watching them in England at all. In
Why is
fact, I
that?
like, oh, I'm sorry, they don't speak Shakespeare so well anymore. I wish I had been there when the greats were performing. The guys who actually knew Shakespeare and loved the language and knew how to convey it
Sure.
to an audience. It's not enough to just love the language and speak it beautifully and get all your T's and I's and D's crossed and, perfectly pronounced. But what is the meaning you are making with it? What are you doing to connect it with your life?
Yeah.
That's what makes a play come alive. And that I don't find often in England. I find Shakespeare on film sometimes much better. I
Sure.
think
Like the Vishal
yeah,
Bharadwaj adaptations have been
absolutely, yes. Or
brilliant.
even in England, the English productions of Shakespeare on film, or what Kozintsev has done, the Russian films, or what Kurosawa has done,
Yeah.
the Japanese films. So I think they have used Shakespeare with much more aplomb and much more style and confidence than
Than at the English. Hmm.
people in the theatre.
Okay. And what's this thing about imagination and honesty that is always spoken about in acting schools? Uh, I know that it's your pet peeve that in acting schools you say that the quality of instructors teaching is not really at par. So what are we lacking? What are we missing? And what's this deal about imagination and honesty? And how do we get there?
Well, imagination is the first and most important tool that an actor has,
Mhm.
apart from her body and her voice. That's my only other tool, imagination.
Mm.
What I can do with my mind, what I can see in this character that I'm playing, what I can imagine me, how I can imagine me as being that. Everything, every step of the way of creating a performance requires imagination. So my imagination is my most precious tool.
Okay.
And therefore, the training of that imagination, and of course, the training of the body and the mind and the voice,
Mm.
both of which are extremely important. Now, that requires specialized work. We haven't created the people who can help actors develop in these areas.
Mhm.
Let me put it like this: the word instructor is a bad one
Mhm.
for this medium. You can't really be instructed into acting,
Mhm.
but you can be facilitated.
Okay.
The acting uh, facilitator can lead you to discover things that you did not know about yourself. That's what a good director also helps to do. I mean, I'm presuming that uh, an actor comes to uh, the set or the theater with preparation, with an understanding, with something to present to the director. Then it is up to the director to hone what I have brought to the table and present it to the audience.
Sure.
The director should not have to instruct me and explain to me as if I'm a child. That's not what it should be, but that's what we expect of our directors most of the time. On a set in particular, oh my God, the directors have to start from scratch. They have to tell what happened before and what will come after. That's my job as an actor. The director shouldn't have to waste her time or his time on that.
Mhm.
But we come unprepared and we are stars, so nobody can say anything to us. So we just go ahead and behave like spoiled children.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we haven't prepared facilitators who can help people discover how they act themselves rather than teach them how to act, which means saying that this is the right way to do it and this is the wrong. Excuse me, how can anyone make up their mind about that? I
Right.
can't make up my mind about that. So, and our problem has always been that we've been trying to prepare actors essentially for films. And for films, the demands made on actors has been so
Right.
limited
Right.
that इस पे क्या मेहनत करे छोड़ो ना लक
Yeah.
के हिसाब से भगवान की कृपा से कुछ ना कुछ हो जाएगा.
I wanted to talk to you about this paisa vasool factor versus quality of art. I think, and I'm maybe very cynical and pessimistic about the way India functions today, but I think that we thrive on mediocrity. right? Like we are mediocre when it comes to a lot of different aspects of life in the way that we function because of maybe a legacy of the infrastructure that was created and so on and so forth. We can blame the politicians, we can blame ourselves, but it is a fact that we're not on our A game. So is it that our creators are not bringing their best work? Because often we get to hear that movies like Radhe and so on and so forth are made because the auto wala on the streets wants to keep his brain at home and doesn't want to invest the time in intellectualizing things, right? It's simple for them, it's simple
Absolutely.
fodder for them to consume, and
Yes.
that is why who are we, uh, sitting on top of the ivory towers deciding what art is? So how do we make that distinction of what is acceptable
I
versus
have no
not?
problem. I have no problem with a film like Radhe, which is essentially aiming to entertain.
Sure.
No problem with it at all. I mean, there are plenty of films all over the world which are made like that. And but my problem is with how you choose to entertain us. Can we
Mhm.
have a little bit of skill? Can we have some polish? Can we have some believability? Can we have a story? Can we have a, you know, can we not, should we not be expected to be morons? I don't want to be treated like a moron when I go to see a movie.
Mhm.
So that's my problem. Not with the entertainment. I love it. I mean, I love my favorite spare time watching would be Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly hoofing it
Right.
in a Hollywood film.
Sure.
Or my one of my favorite films is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. So I mean,
That's
that's not trying to give you any major gyan,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's a damn good story and it's damn well told. I
Sure.
love Ocean's 11. That's a lark and wonderfully told.
Mhm.
I'm all for entertainment, but does it have to be downright stupid? I think even the Autowala now is getting fed up of being treated
Of the
like a
same
moron.
type of movies. Fair enough. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So I remember when Bajrangi Bhaijaan was released some years ago, I heard a lot of people on the sets, light boys and spot boys and people like that would be talking amongst themselves, discussing the film and saying, you know what? Salman Khan film has a story. इस बार तो भाई की पिक्चर में स्टोरी है Oof, too much you know so well
Yeah.
even they want it
Yeah.
because now thanks to the internet
Yeah.
everyone is consuming all kinds of things. There's no way
Yeah.
now fool people all the time.
True.
We are
True.
still being able to fool them some of the time but not all the time, so
And
hopefully things will change.
sure. And in comes the web series and the OTT platforms and completely overwhelm us with how amazing the shows are or how well told these stories are, be it Patal Loks or be it your Sacred Games, be it the Family Mans and so on and so forth. Whereas TV is still lagging behind by a century at the very least because we're still,
It's catering to a different audience altogether.
yeah,
Television is not your pay per view kind of audience.
sure.
It's not an audience that's willing to put out money every day to watch something on Netflix.
Hmm.
A lot of other OTT platforms which speak to a different audience are also doing well, and so kya kehte, audience is expanding. But the television is sitting in your home with absolutely minimal effort and very small payment. You
Hmm.
have
Really?
yes, it's much smaller than any other consumption. And don't forget, large numbers of India don't even have cable. We
Hmm.
don't, large pockets of India are still only the free television,
Sure, sure, sure.
which is Darshan.
Hmm.
So, yes, but of course, again, the mobile revolution, the fact that you can see what you want to see on your mobile has changed things dramatically for a segment of our audience,
Hmm. Hmm, hmm,
the
hmm.
young in particular. But older people, people at home, people who are hooked onto their daily dose of television,
Yeah.
are happy to continue in the same vein.
Okay, let's dive a bit into your roles. And again, the few that I had not seen, I ended up watching. Is there any role in particular in the movies that has transformed you as a person that you found you could relate to the most, or it had some sort of a profound impact on you that has stayed with you?
Several, I would think. For one, I didn't get very complex or interesting parts for a long time. But in recent times, I have had the opportunity to do something like Kapoor and Sons, for
Sure.
example, which I enjoyed very much. And
Yeah.
it was a change in pace for the kind of movies that were being produced for a entertainment loving audience. Here
Yeah.
was a chance to have some entertainment, but also think about some issues that are crucial. And the whole thing was treated in a way that seemed real
Mm-hmm.
rather than the fantastical world of the Hindi cinema that had been created for us before
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, certainly, Kapoor and Sons was a major step forward for me. As an actor, it made me feel confident about being able to get my teeth into a meaty role and deliver.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure
Absolutely.
I was going to be able to do it, because I mean, I hadn't done anything so challenging or so lengthy before. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, that was definitely something that excited me. And then, of course, Lipstick Under My Burqa, which was such a
Right.
different kind of um, part for me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
such a different kind of film. I was so happy to be part of it, and part of the group that
Yeah.
got together
Yeah.
to make those. It was really a special experience
Yeah.
um, in the writing of it, of course, but even the shooting of it. It's a story in which all the women are often in rather uncomfortable situations,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it would be hard to shoot on a
Oh,
regular
very
film
much.
set
Very much. Yeah.
with the kind of patriarchy and lewdness that
Yeah.
floats around.
Yeah.
That would be very hard to shoot.
Yeah.
But Alankrita ran a superb set.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us felt uncomfortable or, you know, uh, looked at in a way that we didn't want to be.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
really special. And of course, then the impact of that film on
Yeah.
people, the
Yeah.
number of people that came up and talked to me about it. In the market, for example, at the Banya shop, somebody comes up and says, "Why did you have that end? And the film is made by a woman. Why could
Yeah.
she not have given some kind of a hopeful end?"
Yeah.
This woman was really agitated about it. And a
Yeah.
young girl at a college function came up to me, "Ma'am, why such a depressing, hopeless end? I mean, is that all that is there for us women?" And it really took, I was stumped because I didn't know what to say. And
Yeah.
then I asked them both, in both cases, I asked them, what end would you have
Had. Yeah.
found acceptable
Mm-hmm.
and believable? Of course, I want these women to go out and conquer the world. But is that what happens?
Yeah.
Is that what happens in your life and mine?
Right.
So, if we are to talk about the world as it is, then the audience also has to be strong enough
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
face up to the
To
ugliness
stomach it.
that you are
To
seeing.
stomach it. Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
And you want the happy ending, but you know that life doesn't always provide you with happy endings.
Yeah. Uh,
And I have to say, another film that I found
sure.
really interesting was, in a strange sort of way, Golmaal 3. You know,
Mm.
I mean, that was something like I never expected to be asked to do something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was so zany. When they read out the script to me, I thought this is like absolutely hysterical,
Madcap.
quirky, zany stuff. I mean,
Mm.
this is our chance to make a Jim Carrey kind of movie,
Yeah.
Yay,
Yeah.
this is sounding really so ludicrous that it's interesting. And then I saw the film, and man, how wrong did we go? Quite a lot of it works, but how exaggerated and unnecessarily underlined the humor is.
Yeah. It's spoon feeding constantly. It's just
Oh,
over.
including soundtrack, which tells you, here's a laugh, come on, get ready for the laugh,
Yeah.
here it is. Oh my God, I was so disappointed, but I had a blast doing it.
Sure.
And
Sure.
it really gave me an idea of how this kind of thing operates. And can I fit into it? That
Mm.
is always another question.
Yeah.
And I found that I could, and I had a pretty good time at it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
I want to do too many of that, but it was wonderful while it lasted.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. And if I look at your career so far, from having done so many plays, and doing television that has been so transformative, I feel over the generations, become cult classics like Sarabhai versus Sarabhai. That I feel that you had gone, you maybe got lost somewhere due to the audience's lack of knowledge, or the creators not possibly being aware of your immense potential and talent. And I know you've gone on record to talk about how there was a star system created in parallel cinema movement. Why do you believe that?
Yeah, that's true. It happened. I think it was maybe a lack of imagination on the part of the directors. Uh, um, Maybe they were forced into that because it can get very tough. I mean, it's hard to find money to make a film.
Hmm.
And then if your producer says that, get me safe names here, don't experiment too much, then I guess directors have had to make compromises, do things. But I also feel that um, the directors then were not as well prepared as I see some of the directors now. The directors today seem to have a little more understanding of human behavior. They
Mhm.
write scripts also with that understanding. And they are willing to see different kinds of people, faces,
Mhm.
and they recognize what that variety brings to their films. I think uh, that is quite a significant change.
Right.
And sometimes, I mean, I know I've moaned about not having got good work earlier, but if I'm really honest with myself, maybe I wasn't really prepared for it at that point. I've learned much more about acting as I've gone along.
Sure.
And that's one of the sad things about acting, isn't it? That when you actually figure out how to do it and do it well, you're too old for a lot of the parts.
Hmm.
But I'm lucky, again, I'm in a place
Yeah.
where women of my age and my type are required for the kind of things that are being planned, whether
Yeah.
on OTT or in films or the theatre is not writing too many new things. So we are constantly on the lookout for what to do and how to do it. But in film and OTT world, definitely there is a wider variety of characters that are being
Sure.
written. So that's good news. That's
Yeah.
good news.
That's great. Do you guys keep in touch? Do you guys get connect every once in a while? Would it, if it was Anina Gupta or Seema Pava ji or Deepti Nawal ji, Shabana Azmi ji, how do you guys stay in touch? Because you have such great memories, I would imagine, going back so many years.
That's true. Well, we don't meet very often. When we do meet, it's extremely warm and pleasant.
Mhm.
And we've all grown up now, so we can stop worrying about is she getting a bigger role? Am I getting all that? We can put it past and actually behave with each other like human beings. It's terrific.
Okay.
But Seema and I have worked together. We've done several plays together, in fact. She
Okay.
works with our company, and I've worked with her
Nice.
company. So Seema and I have been in more touch, of course,
Okay.
and the others. Usually, film actors, I mean, it's during the time of shooting that you really connect.
Okay.
Before and after, it's not so, uh,
Okay.
not so frequent. But in the theater, it's different. It's like a marriage. So
Yeah.
you end up spending more time with each other in rehearsal, in performance, all the time.
Right. Right. Almost at the end. Um,
Yes,
I watched Chand Mubarak. Do you want to talk a
yes,
bit about that movie? I thought it was really special. Anything about that
yes.
movie that stayed with you? Why
Oh,
it's special
lots.
for you?
For one, it was a job after like 6 months of sitting at home and being thoroughly bored. So
Yes.
getting out and doing something was wonderful. And it was an excellent unit. I enjoyed working with Nitya and Shardul and everyone else on the set. I mean, it was a small, almost skeleton unit. So everyone was pitching in and doing everything.
Right. Right.
So it felt like the old days when one used to see student films being made or the early NFTC films being made, which were so short of funds
Yeah.
that everyone pitched in and everyone did everything. This was maybe not so short on funds,
Yeah.
but it was short on people for sure. We couldn't have a larger crew and cast. So it really, and I thought that Nitya managed to capture a lot
Mm.
of the lockdown experience in a really small, succinct way
Yeah.
without over dramatizing it.
Yeah.
I found that quite fascinating. I
I,
very much enjoyed working on it.
I thought that the character was played to the T because we were going through the pandemic and are going through the pandemic. So you must have really been nervous the whole time when you were
Yes,
spraying around,
yes,
just
yes, yes. And I
yeah,
can see what it has done to so many people.
yeah,
The suspicion of the other,
yeah,
particularly of the lower class other.
mm-hmm.
I mean, in India, we have been horribly casteist always.
Yeah,
We've been racist, and now we are awfully classist also.
mm-hmm.
Awfully. And it's across the board. I mean, it's so depressing to hear people in my building or buildings around, friends talk about these people, not letting
Yeah,
mates in, not helping, not paying salaries. I mean, the number of stories one hears about that. I'm astounded. I'm astounded. And ye niyat ki baat hai. It's not to do with the
with
fact that everyone
humanity.
is.
Hmm.
It's not to do with the fact that everyone is suffering and everyone's incomes have dropped. No doubt about it. So it is a strain. But if it's a strain on me, how much more of a strain is it on my maid?
Yeah,
And if humanity is a pretty word, but this is just basic decency. Yeah. You wouldn't do that to a dog, the way people behave towards other human beings. And
hmm.
we are so ugly in India. We are so ugly. And it's the upper middle class and the middle class. That's so ugly. Put
Right.
down your PAN card number, put down your Aadhaar card number before you step into my building. Oh, come on. I mean, this is just not on. And I'm afraid it will stay. This horrible elitist world
Attitude. Yeah.
of gated communities. We've bloody gated our heads. Awful. I'm so depressed about it.
Hmm. Do you find it challenging to talk about things now because it no longer is, since the advent of Twitter and other such social media platforms, it doesn't really end up becoming a debate, but we've seen how ugly and dirty it gets when you know popular names like Kangana Ranaut or Swarab Bhaskar get embroiled in these controversies one after another. It's like a constant barrage of negativity being
Of
thrown at us.
stupidity.
Yeah,
Stupidity.
and so
Absolute
why
stupidity.
why would one even feel encouraged to make that first move about uh, that humanitarian or humane gesture of wanting to help society by talking about things, only to find that people are now calling you तू ये है तू वो है तू कुत्ता है
Which is why I'm not on social
yeah,
media.
because no
I
one
do
wants to
not
have a
want
decent
to be.
debate anymore, right? Like they're going to
Yes,
be, yeah.
yes. We are in a horribly noisy space at the moment.
So how does
And
one deal with that? What do you do when you have so much angst and you want to speak about things, you know that it needs to be done, the underbelly, the ugliness has to be brought out? So
then, if you want to talk about it, you just go ahead and talk about it and don't listen to the trolls. Don't read them. You
mhm.
don't have to. You don't have to. Nasir says what he needs to when he feels like, and he doesn't check his whatever Facebook I think he's on.
Okay.
It doesn't bother him because he wanted to say it and he wanted to get it out. And yes, some people do respond well, some people don't. But that's not in his hands. If I feel the need to say something, I should find a way to say it. Ideally, in a non aggressive manner. Basically, I feel that if I can contribute to the discussion and to the desire to find a solution, then I would like to do what I can. If I'm just contributing to noise,
Yeah.
count me out.
Right. Right.
And
Okay.
I'm afraid all of us take those kind of decisions. I mean, people speak. Everywhere in the world, people are speaking up and are talking about things that bother them. And they are being trolled and they are being. Some people make a big fuss about the trolling. Some people just get on with life and do it. And can you imagine what poor Rahul Gandhi must be feeling? I mean, I don't have much respect for him as a politician, but as a human being, that poor
Yeah.
guy is constantly being made fun of, or even Modi for that matter.
Yeah.
He's constantly being blasted by some people and shown as God by
Yeah.
others. Now, I mean, that poor man's going to go nuts. No human being can deal with so much rejection or so much acceptance.
Yeah.
There has to be a balance. That's enough to mess with your mind.
Yeah, I don't believe that human beings are really designed to deal with so much anxiety and stresses we are
Yes.
put through. I
Yes.
mean, we're really not.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
but does this mean that we're almost at the end, and we are at the
Yeah.
end? I promise you.
Yeah.
A meal at Madras Cafe next for you, or
I would love to. I'm just waiting to go back to Madras Cafe. They don't, you can pick up, you can take delivery from there, but that's not the same thing as sitting and eating there. So, yeah, so many such things. Most important, going back into Prithvi. I really am looking
yeah,
back, forward to going back on stage. It was just bliss.
yeah.
Seeing things on stage, that live experience, I find is deeply important for me.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm longing for.
Sure. I hope that you get back as soon as you can, and
Inshallah.
as soon as nature allows us. But thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk with such a class act as you. Thank you,
Thank
and
you.
have a
Thank
wonderful
you very
rest of the
much.
evening. Bye bye.
Thank you.